In time for our KTM International Motorcycle News update. And as you heard Matt talking to Tyler Rattray earlier in the program, starts off his winning ways in 2008 with the KTM and Red Bull team cleaning up in Valkenswaard in Holland last weekend. Well done to our South African star. We really look forward to him racing at the South African Motocross Grand Prix 20th of July in Nelspruit. Michael Schumacher was called in for testing duties. Can you believe it? Last week in Mugello, test rider Vittorio Gareschi was injured. They called Schumacher up. Guess what? He pitched up, did some testing on the MotoGP Ducati. Unbelievable. Brian Deegan is coming to South Africa Masters of Dirt in June, and Brian Deegan, the big hero of freestyle motocross around the world, is flying out to SA to take part in that Masters of Dirt. Watch your local press for details. David Knight last weekend won his first GNCC in America for this year. The World Enduro Champion taking part in GNCCs on his KTM, picking up the win last weekend in Georgia. Well, it's time for the Dick and Dave part of the show, and this time around we're going to be chatting to Jonathan Green about World Superbikes, World Supers last weekend. Glad to see them back in Europe and glad to see really good racing in World Supers. Amazing stuff, wasn't it, Dick?
It was, but I was a little bit concerned about these Grand Prix riders that come in and cause havoc, and I just don't think they've got the practice.
I wonder if Jonathan Green, who is the commentator for World Superbikes, does he appreciate MotoGP riders coming in and causing havoc? Jonathan, do you?
I love it. No, to be fair, it was very unlike Carlos Checa to do that, but it just shows you, and that's why I love it, that Carlos Checa is here for business, and he may be a superstar, and he may have made a very silly error, and it has to be the truth, because there's no way he should have gone up the inside on the last lap like that. But that's how bad he wanted it. That's how important it is to him. And I say bring it on, because I know it was a bad injury, and I don't want Neukirchner hurt. But if that's the kind of commitment we're going to get from World Supers, then I'm all for it.
Jonathan, Neukirchner was hurt. What is the update on his injuries there?
It's a collarbone injury, a very tiny, tiny fracture. It was kind of bizarre, really. We went down to the Clinica Mobile after the race, and he had been taken to hospital, and evidently it was a tiny crack. And the good news is, despite the fact that the protest that the Alstar team put in for the accident was actually thrown out, the good news is that Max Neukirchner hopefully should be fit in 3 weeks' time for Aston.
Jonathan, just on taking another tact completely, it looks like superbike racing is starting to catch on in Spain.
In Spain, oh, without a doubt. And I'll tell you what, we had the biggest crowd I've ever seen, and I've been going there since it opened in '99, and that was the biggest crowd, and I say it as though it's a surprise. As you know, MotoGP is king over there, and the likes of Carlos Checa and so on, and all the youngsters coming up, Elias, etc., have been leading the way now. Jorge Lorenzo the same. And I was worried, given it was a week after Jerez, where we know there's over 200,000 go, that we'd have a small crowd. Not the case. In Valencia, it was a huge crowd, and I think the likes of Fonzi Nieto and Carlos Checa have brought that on. And actually the whole field. It's the most competitive field we've ever had.
Very much so. No clear winners at the moment in that World Superbike. Jonathan, your commentary is obviously well appreciated here in South Africa. And we had an email from a young lady by the name of Janice, and she asked, can you ask Jonathan to go along to Troy Bayliss and ask him, he said that he wants to retire at the end of the year, having won on all three models of the Ducati, the old 916, then the 999, now of course the 1098R. And will he retire at the end of the year if he doesn't win the championship? Because she doesn't want him to go. Obviously, she's a big fan of it. So she's asked, Janice is her name, would you go along and ask Troy, is he definitely going to retire? Because she is going to miss him desperately.
Well, you can tell Janet that I actually asked him myself on Saturday, of exactly that question, and I've got bad news for her. Regardless of what happens this season, the big man is hanging up the levers. Now, he's not giving up racing. I'll give her some hope. He's inkling at going towards Holden's V8s, etc. in Australia. No deal has been announced yet. He's even doing a rally, put this one in your diary, with Chris Atkinson, the famous Aussie rally driver, as his co-driver later in the year. So Bayliss is serious about a future career in four wheels, but sadly for all our two-wheel fans, it looks as though it's over.
Jonathan, thanks for that information. That's the word from Jonathan Green. And Jonathan, we'll catch up with you before the next race, hopefully before Assen, if you're available to us.
Yeah, of course. Don't go changing, boys.
So moving along from World Superbikes, we go to MotoGP. And